DJ Lil create vibes now.
Welcome to another episode of the Get Love Like Mine podcast. We are your humble hosts. I'm Keisha Amos. This is my beautiful husband, Sam Amos. And this is episode 4 of season 2. Yesterday was our 8-year wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary again, baby.
Yes, thank you. Same to you.
We pray that during this podcast, that we will say something that will help you to self-reflect and help you to build a closer relationship with God. Last week we talked about the one. Finding someone that you have that connection with who, for whatever reason, whether it's timing or maybe you actually did have a relationship with the person and it didn't work out at the time. Whatever the case, we mentioned sometimes you end up with a placeholder. A placeholder is someone who, whether they're in your life or not, they don't have any effect on your life. They don't bring anything to your life that is valuable or like if they were gone today or tomorrow, I'm not saying you wouldn't miss them as a person, but your life wouldn't change. You could go on as usual. And a lot of times people end up in relationships with a placeholder. For whatever reason they didn't make it work with the one or couldn't make it work. And then they go on and they settle with someone else. And sometimes people marry the placeholder or have kids with the placeholder or are in long-term relationships with them. But in that last podcast, we discussed a person being able to move from a placeholder to the one. My husband doesn't think you can become the one. You're just born the one. But what we want to discuss is how to come out of placeholder status. So what do you think about that?
Well, as far as the definition, let's get this part straight. Now, to be the placeholder, I can't consider myself the placeholder, right?
Right.
She has to think of me as a placeholder. I probably don't even know
for sure.
I'm labeled the placeholder. That's what this is. So it's not like I can sit here and say, well, I'm feeling like I'm the placeholder in this relationship. I need to do some things better. I don't know I'm the placeholder because the whole premises of it is she has maybe someone that she thought would have been better for her back in the day and it didn't work out. And let me just throw this little definition in too of where you get to finding the one. Some folks love harder than others, on a much shorter scale. Like I may not have known you that long and we clicked, and to me, you're the one. Mm-hmm. Well, I may not be the one, or you may not consider me the one. And that imbalance of I think you are and you think I'm not is where stalkers come from. Okay, I just wanted to say that. That's where stalkers come from. They find the one awful fast and they can't deal with it well. But anyway, so getting back to the definition of placeholder. A placeholder is someone that your other considers you to be that you probably don't know you are. So what can be done for this not the one person to at least come out of placeholder status? They don't have to be the one, but you can make them closer to the one, or for better relationship purposes, they won't be a placeholder anymore. For starters, that she has to completely let go of whatever it was she's holding on to. Thinking, okay, I didn't end up with this person for whatever reason, but in the back of my head, I just feel like it's going to come back around someday. So I leave the door halfway open. In other words, I'm not all in when it comes to you and I. That's the part. That's probably the main part that if you're ever going to get this person out of placeholder status, is you have to let go of whatever that something or someone is in the back of your head that you just feel like that person was meant for me. And yeah, I know they're married and living in a big house and they just had their third kid. But I'm still holding on like that was my spouse. I know it had to be my spouse. Things just never quite lined up for me to kick it with them like that. But that doesn't mean it won't happen one day. And it may happen one day. But in the meantime, you've turned this spouse or boyfriend or whatever they are to you. You shoved them into placeholder status because you're not giving them all of you, and it's not fair to that person.
And sometimes you're kidding yourself. Sometimes it may not be that you are holding out for that person because you have in the back of your mind that one day we'll get back together. Sometimes you know you're not supposed to be with that person. So you'll make that person your friend. And then that person's been my friend. That person was my friend before I even met you. So you can't stop me from being friends with them. But what you said still stands. You have to let that go. You have to be able to cut off anything that's distracting you from making this person, from taking this person out of placeholder status. If I could understand if this person is new. You're not really sure if they're gonna be around for the long haul. But if, let's say, you've already had kids with the person, or you actually married the person, you've been in a relationship for 3 years, you literally should have cut that other person off. You can't bring your baggage along and think that the placeholder is ever going to be able to make their way through if they have all this other baggage weighing them down. One thing I honestly feel, as far as when it comes to the decision to cheat, I feel like if you don't have options, it's much harder to cheat. If no one else is around or in a position where you could be alone with that person, or you could be having private conversations with that person, if no one else is around, you're likely not going to cheat. But if you have someone who you're talking to when your significant other doesn't know anything about, or I always talk about this, the work husband or the work wife, that you put yourself in a position where you could end up cheating when you invite that type of relationship into your main relationship. When you have these little side relationships that your significant other may not know about, or I'm friends with my ex, or I have my work husband, or I have my ex who he lives out of town, but every time he comes to town we going to dinner. Like, when you have those types of relationships that you're not willing to cut off, the placeholder is never going to come out of placeholder status. But I feel like if you're willing to cut those distractions out and just focus on the placeholder, you can bring them out of placeholder status. It's really a matter of going all in and giving 100%.
That's good. Also, while you were talking, I thought about this when it comes to, let's discuss love a little bit, because I heard something this week from another pastor that, as old as we are, I've never heard love described this way. Mm-hmm. And so what he said was, reading out of a Bible, he says, if you think about it, love is a choice, it's an action. It has nothing to do with your feelings. It's not driven by your feelings. And so, as I thought back over that, all the times in the Bible that God talked about love your neighbor, and love your spouse, or love your brother like I love the church, none of that said anything about love who you feel like, when you get that feeling, that warm feeling inside. there was never the word feeling used in any of that. So
the fact that Jesus says love your enemies, you know it can't be just about a feeling.
It can't be feeling, because you're never going to feel like loving somebody that has done something wrong to you or harmed you. So it's amazing to think. I've never heard love described in this way, but when you love someone, you need to choose to love them and love them regardless. Because this is the other thing the pastor said as I was watching this video, that if you waited on feeling, if you love by feeling, well, your feelings change all day long. Mm-hmm. So you can't love somebody in the morning and not love them in the evening and say we're married, right?
All right.
So that's like, I guess that's where terms like schizophrenia or come from, because everything they do is off of what they feel, but they can't control the chemical balance of their feelings. So it's up one minute, down the next minute. God said that's not what real love is. So in keeping with trying to bring people out of placeholder status, we talked about getting rid of, the past, whatever that was keeping you from being all in. You just said get rid of distractions. Mm-hmm. So a third thing you can do is love with action, and choose to love with action and not with your feelings. Mm-hmm. And then a good way to define it is to say, I'm gonna love this person whether they deserve it or not. See, too often we try to ration out our love,
put conditions on it,
right, by what they deserve. Mm-hmm. Well, let's look over this past week. I'm not sure how much you deserve.
And imagine if God loved us based on what we deserve.
Well, see, that's a whole other.
Yeah, nobody want to talk about that, because you don't deserve half the blessings that God gives you.
But you want them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. When we had spoke on racism, mm-hmm. and the simple rule of just treat people the way you want to be treated. Well, there are some folks that, regardless of how I treat you, I'm going to still get treated a certain way coming back, mm-hmm. that I like. So why would I bend over or bow down and do that when I'm going to always get what I want? Well, this is kind of the same way. We always want God's blessings, but we don't want to mimic the way He does things or the way He has outlined for us to love other people. I mean, is it hard? I don't think if you can choose to do it, mm-hmm. mentally, it shouldn't be that hard. Now, love my enemy, somebody that's purposely doing things wrong to me, I can see where that could get tedious, that could get hard. But again, at the same time, a lot of this goes back to this is what frame of mind are you in? Where's your maturity level? When it comes to these type of discussions, some folks will, oh man, I'll die first before I even speak to, this person.
Well, what's the scripture? Love is kind. Love doesn't keep count. Like what all does it say? Love is all those things. I probably need to look it up. But that, if you think of it that way, it should be easy to love your enemies, because they're probably only your enemy because they want to be your enemy. You know what I mean? It's probably not even a choice. Like, for me, I don't have beef with anybody. But if somebody considers themselves my enemy, I can be kind. I already don't know what you did or what I did, so I'm not keeping count of your faults. I can speak, I can be courteous, and that is showing love. That is choosing to love, choosing the action of love, right, and not going with my feelings. Because there are a lot of people who feel like, oh, she don't like me. Oh, well, I don't like her either. Well, no, no. When God says love your enemies, that's what He's meaning. If somebody doesn't like you, you still have to choose to be kind. You still, can be cordial. You can not gossip about that person, or not fuel the flame, fan the flames to, make things worse.
In a relationship, one thing that you said that I know is in that love scripture is to not keep count of other people's faults. If you could figure out just how to stop doing that in your relationship with your significant other, I see that all the time. Nobody's perfect. Yeah, everybody's heard that. But when a person messes up, and you may not blast them right there on the spot, but in the back of your head, you kept a notation of it. And sure enough, it'll come back up later on and ride in the car. All it takes is for that person to point out what you did wrong. And then bang, oh, well, hey, I got a whole list of things you did wrong too. Well, why are y'all keeping count of who did what?
The scripture says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance.
Okay. So did you want to add something to me saying stop, relationship wise, just stop keeping track of who did what wrong? And like I said earlier, you may not blast them right on the spot when they left the car in neutral and didn't pull the parking brake up and it rolled away. But
love is not rude.
Right, but later on when we're out to eat and you bring up the fact that I was late to work or overslept, and then I said, well, remember when you, well, there we go. Everybody's keeping record, even though I didn't say nothing back then.
Yeah.
I remembered what you did, and let me go ahead and bring it to your attention.
Well, I think that that same video that you were speaking on, they talked about. Well, I'll let you bring it up because it had more of an impact on you, but then I'll give the woman's perspective.
Which was
about the damage of their words.
Oh, okay. So I'm one of those people that, like, even on my job, I work with a lot of men. So I chastise men or talk with men all the time about relationships, and things, because I'm an older fella now. And I see so much now that I wish I had seen when I was younger and I couldn't see. I'm over 30, I'm over 40, I'm over 50. My mind now is in a different place. I want to learn every single day. I'm trying to learn. Just, if I can find a good teacher, I'll just sit there and just listen to them all day. I just love it, because what I soak in, I can go help someone else with. Mm-hmm. And so I have friends that, some of them give me stuff that I can use, and some of them I have stuff that they can use. But I see where men, now I'm not saying women don't, so we don't need to have that argument. That's not what this is about. I see so much where men just constantly mess stuff up because we don't know any better. I wish I could go back and redo so much stuff that I did wrong, I said wrong, I reacted wrong. I remember having a short temper. My understanding was bad. I remember that guy that was me. And so when I see it around me now, I don't just blast people, but I will offer interjection. I have a friend right now, and everybody may not be on this level, that I told him, he mentioned to me that he had a problem with one of our supervisors, right? But the incident happened years ago or whatever it is, but to this day, he still feels there's some dislike there or disrespect there. He said, I just don't like him. So he went his way. I got in my car and went home, and I called him on the way, and I said, man, I need you to do me a favor. I'm gonna need you to apologize to that man for holding him hostage. You haven't forgiven him, and you're holding on to that for years. to the point where you shouldn't frown up when this person walk in the room. That's too much stress and tension that they have over you, and both of y'all may have forgotten what the incident was.
Well, he clearly didn't forget.
Yeah, he didn't, or he may have forgotten, like I see in relationships a lot of times, he may have forgotten the details of how things went. And here's a whole other thing. If you don't discuss your problems early when they happen, you wait 4 years, 9 years, 12 years down the road, and you forget some of the details. Well, I can't remember exactly what you said, but I know whatever it was you made. So you're going to hold on to that blankness?
Yeah.
People do it. But I get on guys all the time. Guys, men, we have so much control over the well-being of our relationship if we would just do better. Think about the things you say before you say them. I listen to guys talk about women, they're not built right anymore. She built bad now. Not mentioning how bad they're built now as well. None of us are built the same. But they talk down on women and go about their business, and they just broke that woman up on the inside. Now, she didn't fall out on the floor and start crying, but in the back of her head, now she's worried. Oh, I gotta double check how I look before I leave the house, and I didn't think I was that bad. All these things, all based on something foolish that really you probably could have kept to yourself. So, just speaking alone, men, we say so much damaging stuff, and I can remember thinking back in the day, I may not discuss things with my wife because she holds on to them, and she won't let them go, and she's going to bring them back up later. So I was real selective on what I want to tell her. But a lot of times it was things that I might have said that she held on to that I probably shouldn't have said that was damaging to the relationship. Like you bring up all the time, I said,
you get on my nerves.
You get on my nerves, or you act like you can't breathe without me. I said stupid stuff. Like, even if you thought that.
Love is not rude.
Yeah, you might have been better off keeping that to yourself. I'm talking to the men. I'm not saying women can slice you up too. But the Bible says life and death is where? In the power of the tongue. You can slice people completely up, and they may never forget it. Like, yeah, people say, oh, well, you gotta forgive and forget. Yeah, I might forgive you, but boy, forgetting, well, you're human. It may stick in the back of your brain for years.
I had mentioned this yesterday, but I'll share it with you guys only because the guy who said it, he's deceased now. But he was my boyfriend like the last part of my teens into my early 20s. And he used to basically fat shame me. And I wasn't fat. I was thick. I always have been thick. But at the time, I was probably like 125, 135. But he was real skinny, like super skinny. And so, like, when we would argue, he would say things like making little fat jokes. And when we went at the end of our relationship, he was off at college. He wrote me a letter. This is how long ago this was, because y'all know y'all don't write letters anymore. But he wrote me a letter. And my maiden name was Matthews. He addressed the letter Keisha Fatthews, and like drew a picture of me, a very unflattering picture of me inside the letter. Like, he just went off. And then so I had to be like 22, 23, and it just did a number to my self-esteem. And I actually ended up gaining weight after it because, number one, I was single, but I just was in a bad place. And then my first marriage ended when I was 28, so it had to be about 6 years after me and the guy had broken up. Maybe 7 years. But anyway, I don't remember how we saw each other or got back in contact, because I know I had a different number. But anyway, we talked on the phone. And he was, the first thing out his mouth was, because we hadn't seen each other in all that time, and he was like, so have you been going to the gym? And before I knew it, I was like, boy, F you. Like, you know, it took me so long to get over him. It took me like 2 years to really get this boy out of my system. And then for him to turn around and still be concerned about my weight, it just, but by that time I was over him. So it was like, you know, you're not about to come in here and tear my mind up. But the things that a person can say when you're in love with them, or, you know, loving them, in a relationship with them, like the Bible says, love is not rude. And he was so rude, like, just, but he's gone now. He died in a car accident. But the damage that he can do to your self-esteem, women, you know, naturally already have a lot of stress. There are a lot of impossible standards that we or society have set for ourselves. I remember in my first marriage, because my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She worked part-time every now and then, but for the most part she was at home with me when her and my dad were married. And I saw her cater to my dad. I saw her cook, I saw her clean, I saw her wash, I saw her bring his plate to him. I saw her being of service to her husband. And so in my mind, I thought that's what being a wife meant. That you cook, you clean, you raise the kids, you do the laundry, you do all those things. But when I got married for the first time, I did all those things. I mean, we didn't have kids immediately, but eventually when we did, well, before we did, I cooked, I cleaned, I did everything. But more importantly, I worked also outside of the home. And so did he, but I worked more than he did. So I'm bringing this up to say, there's this, a lot of women have this in their head that they're supposed to be a domestic. And there's nothing wrong with being a domestic, but I don't want you to feel so obligated to do all those things when you work also outside of the home, just like the husband. So if you are both working outside of the home, when you come home, you should also both share the workload in the house. Like back in the day when my mom was being the housewife, my dad worked, but if there was a problem in the house, something wrong with the plumbing, he fixed it. If there was something wrong with the wiring, he fixed it. If there was grass to be cut, he cut it. Like, he did the things that traditionally you would think is man's work. And she did the things that traditionally was woman's work. But when I got married, we were both working outside of the home, and I was the only one working inside the home. So it was kind of like when my daughter came, which she came 2 years after we were married. That was when the blinders came off for me. That was when I realized that I had bitten off more than I could chew, so to speak. I was doing too much. I had to take care of my daughter. I had to work. He wasn't working. I had to cook. I had to clean. And it got to be too much. And so this past, I would say I think that was last weekend, we had a talk about it, me and my current husband. Because I still find myself doing those things, or trying to. I still find myself, I work outside the home. I have lots of businesses now. I have my law firm, I have a title company, and then we also do this podcast. And my husband works long hours, overtime as well. But when we get home, I'm still trying to be the wife. I'm still trying to do the traditional woman's work. I'm still trying to cook. I'm still trying to clean. I'm still trying to take care of the kids and not put that burden on him. Even though he will cook and he will clean and he will take care of the kids, I take it on as if it's my sole responsibility. And sometimes I get burnt out. Sometimes I look at it like I need me time. And so there was a post I saw this week, 2 of them actually, that talked about working moms and moms having to go out and do things on their own. But the one that really stood out, it said, if you can hire a cook, hire one. If you can hire a cleaning lady, hire one. Normalize luxury in your life. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I know it takes on a lot for me, but I'm a person who can take a lot. But everybody can't take a lot. So you don't have to take on this responsibility that you have to do everything. See, if you're with a placeholder and that placeholder, the best thing they can do in your life to get out of placeholder status is to make themselves irreplaceable. They ought to look at what you're struggling with. Look at the fact that, okay, she's been at work for 12 hours. She just got home. She had to pick one kid up from here. She's got to stop at the grocery store. She's got to cook. That placeholder, even though he doesn't know he's a placeholder, should be the one to step his game up to make himself irreplaceable. He should be stepping up to make life easier for you. And vice versa. And because sometimes women are the placeholders. But you should share the load. It shouldn't be so one-sided that the woman, like if you're in a relationship, you should not feel like a single mother. That man should step up and help you with whatever it is that you're going through on the day-to-day. You guys are supposed to be a team. It's not supposed to be all on you. When the Bible says that the man is the head, that has nothing to do with what's going on in the house. Just because he's the head does not mean that he doesn't have to do anything in the house but be there. That is not what that means. And a lot of times men want to claim, oh, I'm the man, I'm the head, but they're not even your husband. It's the husband that's the head, not just a male. It's the husband. So if you're just living with somebody or you guys are just dating and you're trying to make him feel like he's all that, I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but don't act like you're doing it because the Bible told you to do it, because the husband is the head, not just a man.
I think, and we've said this too when it comes to relationships, and I'm going to bring it back up, is when it comes to being a helpmate or helping out, or she and I or a team, I need to know as much about my teammate as possible. Which means, really, I need to be learning more and more about her every day.
Strengths, weaknesses.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I say every day because you're never going to know everything about her. You're never going to even know everything about your own self. Because you're going to keep changing as you get older. But I'm saying this to say, don't be the person that goes and buys her lilies or roses and she's allergic to them. And so as soon as you bring her in, she starts sneezing. Well, that's not going to help. But you can see where if she needs help with the laundry or somebody to pick the kid up or somebody to stop at a grocery store, it doesn't have to be a lot. But just a little help, you'll be surprised, will go a long way in a relationship. But at the same time, you need to know what it is she needs help at. Sometimes she does some of the things around the house, but those are, in her mind, these are my things. I don't need help with this because I want them done a certain way. And I'm not saying you're incapable, but for the moment, just let me handle this. This is just something you need to know, right? Yeah, so if I know that about her, I'm not going to step in and elbow her out the way when she's making spaghetti when she didn't need help with that. She's already got it. So I'm just saying, learn what you can about them. That way you can be the best help. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean doing the most and where she don't have to do anything. It's not even about that. It's about stepping in and being valuable, irreplaceable. Mm-hmm. Irreplaceable. Right? Okay.
Valuable is a good word too, though. Mm-hmm. But I just want to add this about like the guy who called me fat and what you were saying about men saying things and not thinking of what it's going to do to a woman's self-esteem. If you decide on your own that you're overweight or you don't like the way your body looks, by all means, do what you need to do to fix it. But to any man, telling your woman that she's fat or she's put on weight, like, those words should never come out of your mouth. Even if you see it, even if you notice, because it's going to do a number to her that you have no idea. And one thing you should consider is that you don't look the same that you did. You know, I remember 50 Cent saying he only dates exotic women. Like, come on, dude, you're not a dime. you're not a 10. You half of that. Okay, 50 Cent. But you know, men will have women thinking they're not good enough, they're not pretty enough, they're not sexy enough. And you know, I'm just saying, if you see it on your own, that's one thing. But being with a man who puts you down or makes you feel less than, that is not something that you should have to deal with. Love is kind and patient and
not rude.
Not rude. Like, I have to keep saying that it's not rude. So now we can get to Ask the Amoses. So we have one question. It says, my husband is a hard worker and a great provider. I honestly don't believe that he's a cheater. He's a good man. But he doesn't wear his wedding ring when he leaves the house. How do I convince him to wear it without being a nag? Now I'm going to let you address that. Because
I'm a man?
Yeah.
Okay. Good question. Because everybody's different. And I have a thing about that. I get on all my coworkers that are married. I walk right up to them and ask them. And a lot of them have these already answers why they don't wear their wedding ring. Some of it I found to be they're holding out just in case Beyonce happens to look over and think, hey, I want that one over there. Well, I don't want to look married when she see me. Right? And I try to, remind them, Beyonce's probably not going to notice you. So don't let that be the reason you don't wear your ring. But a lot of guys, they have these preconceived ideas, or they don't feel comfortable with it for whatever reason. Like, you expect her to wear hers most of the time. Or, you may notice when she doesn't. Or if she wears it sometimes, but when she's going out, hanging out with the girls, she leaves it at home, that's going to bother you. Well, women, they sometimes feel the same way. Sometimes they just give up on it. And so here we are trying to figure out what it is that can be done with some of these men that don't wear their wedding ring. I went through a period of that when I was working. I wouldn't wear my wedding ring to work, but I actually I work with gloves on. Not an excuse. You can still wear a ring, but at the time my hand got caught in between some equipment and it bent the ring up where I couldn't get it off, so it stayed on for a long time. So after we did get it off, because I had to bend it with some pliers back to kind of the way it was, and so I ended up getting it off. So that was my reason for years after that why I didn't wear a wedding ring. So now I got remarried, because that was in my first marriage, and I found a ring that you can't bend up. So I don't have any more excuse, right? So I wear my ring, but I have coworkers. I have one coworker, he told me, man, I have about 5 of those. He had recently renewed his vows. why are you spending money on all these rings? Won't wear it. I think that this, you'd be surprised. I was surprised at the response you get from other people, the way they treat you for wearing your ring. This is like saying I have integrity. Mm-hmm. I'm going to honor the wedding vows I took, because a lot of people got married. A lot of y'all got married, you know, with a Bible president in a church, all these things. I want God to be a part of my marriage so that it'll work. Well, you took vows also when you got this ring. They weren't just for her and her ring. They were for you and your ring too. Guys, leave the ring at home. Leave it in the box. They don't want other women to see them with the ring on. Mm-hmm. Hey, let go and be all in for your spouse. Man, it'll do wonders for your relationship. You probably don't think so. You probably don't think it's that big a deal. But be proud. Be proud that I'm with somebody and I don't want nobody else. Mm-hmm. Now, I've been told, oh, that's not going to stop aggressive women. They're going to still approach you because they think it's a game now. They want to try to see if they can get you to go against that. Well, I mean, there's all kinds of people in the world. Mm-hmm. It may happen. It may not happen. People may see that and think of you as a stand-up guy. Police treat me different when they see my ring on my finger. Because now, to them, this looks like, okay, you probably are not lying when you say whatever you have to say. Mm-hmm. You know, because this looks like you have integrity.
I definitely look at it that way. When I see a man who wears his wedding ring, regardless of, you know, how handsome or how fine he is, when I see him with that ring on, it lets me know he is a man of integrity, that he honors his wife, that he honors his marriage.
Respectable.
That, you know, he has respect for his marriage and his wife. But that, you know, the person is asking for advice on how to convince him to wear his ring. You know, I'm never a proponent of tit for tat. So I wouldn't tell you to take your ring off and let him see how it feels when you leave your ring at home. I wouldn't tell you that. But I think it's more so a conversation, an honest conversation, just not like, you know how to talk to a person without nagging. Maybe you don't bring it up at the time that he didn't have his ring on. Maybe you bring it up at a completely different time. Maybe you're out and you see someone else with a ring on and you point it out, and then you ask, you know, what's the reason that you don't wear the ring? Because if he doesn't have a valid reason for why he doesn't wear the ring, then it's probably nothing you can say that's going to convince him. You know, sometimes when men are being hard-headed, or I know we discussed this once before, playing stupid, whenever they're playing stupid, it's probably nothing you can say that can convince him to wear his ring. Like you said, the answer already ready already. If he's already got a bad answer for why, yeah, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but this person, I'm probably sure, doesn't watch this podcast. But I saw somebody a couple of weekends ago, and he had a pinky ring on, and I know he's married. We were at an event, his wife was there, and I asked him, why don't you wear your wedding ring? Where's your wedding ring? Why don't you wear it? And he, you know, said the same thing you said about, oh, you know, I can't wear it to work or whatever. I said, yeah, but you're not at work now, so why don't you have it on? Oh, it ain't like I'm out there looking for something. That's
all the more reason.
Yeah. that first of all, I didn't say you were, but if you're not, and you have this pinky ring on, surely this pinky ring was in the same box that your wedding ring was in, same jewelry box. Why didn't you think to put your wedding ring on when you thought to put that pinky ring on? Like, he didn't have any excuse. Any valid excuse. So somebody like that who has all these excuses, it's probably pointless to try to even bring it up to give them a good reason to wear it. But I feel like, just like my husband said, wearing your ring shows that you have integrity. It shows that, you know, you're an honest person, at least trying to be a righteous person. And, you know, But if your husband is not making excuses, just have an honest conversation, not a nagging one. I told you guys this once before. Sometimes when you're talking to your significant other, you have to talk to them like you would talk to your favorite child. So loving and sweet, and not fussing, not raising your voice. Just an honest conversation, and I think that should get the point across.
A lot of guys, especially if you're in a relationship where you have a spouse that is constantly looking at you with the side eye, like, are you up to something? If you're always laughing and giggling at your phone, but you have it turned where they can't see it, the looks like and makes her think that there's a possibility that you may be doing something or having secret conversations, or you have a girlfriend, a side chick, whatever it is. If you're not doing any of those things but you want her to stop feeling like, okay, I'm out here doing other things, well, here's a great way to start. You know what I'm saying? Put your ring on, because not wearing it gives just as much of a vibe as wearing it does. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of which way you look. Now, if you're not wearing it on purpose, then if she comes up with her own reasons why you don't, that's on you. You should put it on.
Right.
Yeah, you're breeding this when you can stop it. Mm-hmm. You're causing this scenario when you really don't have to. If you know this is something, now it may not make all of the question marks go away, but just to move in the right direction mm-hmm. would be a help. Would not put it on and say, hey, look, okay, I'm not trying to hide nothing from you. I'm trying to sneak around, none of that. Most of the times, if a guy's a good-looking guy and the woman knows other women are gonna, I'm not the only one that thinks you look good, right? So other people are gonna find you attractive, and I'm wondering how you deal with that when I'm not around. Well, start this way. At least let the integrity stand out, and then if other things happen from there, then you just have to be an adult about it, but at least make an effort is pretty much what I'm saying.
All right. Well, that was Ask the Amoses. This has been another great episode. If you're not already following us, be sure to follow us at Get a Love Like Mine Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. If you go to our Linktree link, you can leave a question for Ask the Amoses. Otherwise, you can send an email to getalovelikemindepodcast@gmail.com. Put Ask the Amoses in the subject line, and we will answer your question on the show. And that's it. Happy Sunday.